Hey, it's Chris, and in this video we're going to talk about whether AI is becoming intelligent. So large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude are everywhere at the moment, and they're being touted as genuine intelligence. But are they? Well, let's explore that. So let's think about a little bit about what an LLM, a large language model, is. If you chat to ChatGPT, if you chat to Claude, then it does seem to pass the Turing test. You can't tell if you're speaking to a human or a computer. But that isn't necessarily a sign of true intelligence though, because it's just mimicry, it's just mimicking what a human would say. It feels like you're talking to an intelligent person, but it's been trained to do this. It's been trained to mimic human conversation, and it does that very well. Now the question is that a specific kind of AI, generative AI, been trained to mimic human conversation? And that's why it sounds very clever, but it actually isn't. Or is there something fundamental going on? Is this the holy grail of general AI, a replacement for the human brain, or one that can do the same cognitive things that we can do? Well, LLMs are essentially just predictive text. They're really good predictive text, but it's the same on your phone. It just tries to predict what the next best word will be, and it does that on a huge level with these large language models, and it does that very well. So it feels like a real conversation. But is it the same thing as human intelligence? One of the issues is that, like many issues in science and biology, we don't really know, like, what is life? What counts as something that's alive? It's hard to get a very clear definition of that. And that's the same thing for intelligence. Like, coming up with a clear definition of what intelligence is tricky. Are humans just really good large language models? And if so, then AI is eventually going to catch up with us. Or is there something more fundamental going on here? Honestly, to an extent, we're just guessing about this. But there are some things that humans are really good at. So humans are really good at learning from observing cause and effect in the real world, and that data being grounded in the real world. We have all these senses to bring in this information, and then we can adapt our behavior instantly based on this. But if we could build an AI that had the same thing, like it had cameras for eyes and could take in all of that sensory information and could rebuild its large language model on the fly, would that be doing the same thing? Well, again, maybe not, because humans seem to be doing something more fundamental. Reasoning might not be pattern matching. Or it might be pattern matching. If it's just pattern matching, then it's conceivable that an AI could catch up with us quite quickly. But if it's something more fundamental, then it's likely it's going to be harder. And there's a couple of clues that it might be something more fundamental, which is LLMs are not very good at reasoning at the moment. So a classic example is that meme of someone asking a Titanic, is the Titanic swimming pool full of water? AI said no, but of course it is, because the Titanic is at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, of course, humans aren't amazing reasoners all the time either. We tend to rely on heuristics, we tend to rely on biases. We're prone to errors in somewhat predictable ways, as Thinking, Fast and Slow and many other great books have shown. So it's not like humans are brilliant, perfect either. But what we are quite good is noticing when we're not sure about something, slowing down, saying we don't know, thinking critically. We might talk about the metacognitive loop here, the idea that we can observe our own thinking process, understand when we're not sure, and be more cautious, be more critical. So far, LLMs seem to be struggling to do this. They give us very confident, very wrong answers, and they use the data that they're trained on, so they don't seem to be able to do that same critical reasoning that humans are doing. So they'll surface challenges in their training data, but they won't come up with new stuff. So, for example, I would often talk about, okay, here's why a certain psychological measure might be biased. It's trained on a certain group of people. It maybe doesn't represent minorities as well. Now, AI can do this if those arguments have already been made by someone it's trained on. So if someone points out in the literature that these instruments might be biased, AI will be able to surface that argument. But what AI doesn't seem to be doing too well at the moment is that kind of original thought of thinking critically about something, why something might not be true. So in summary, we don't really know whether AI is becoming intelligent because we don't have a clear definition of intelligence to measure against. So far, AI can't do the same level of reasoning and critical thinking that humans appear to be able to do it. And even when they are doing this, it's typically the appearance of them doing this because they're trained to surface counter arguments and they're trained to present this information in a very human sounding way. But that doesn't mean that there's actually any critical thinking going on under the hood. So chances are we're a long way off. But because we can't say that humans are actually doing anything smarter, it may be that humans are just complex large language models. It may be that actually we're not as clever as we think we are, and therefore AI will catch up eventually. But as far as we can tell at the moment, there is something more fundamental going on. What do you think about AI catching human intelligence? Let me know in the comments.